Feedback, a program designed to answer questions about issues and concerns which face our society today. Feedback with Bob Hoskins presents both sides of every issue. Join us now for today's edition of Feedback.
The debate between evolutionists and creationists has been going on for, well, more than 125 years. More recently, it is being brought back into a little sharper focus by the publishing of a popular book. Interestingly enough, the book that supports the evolution theory was not written by a scientist, but by a popular television preacher. He's on television 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, and he has an enormous influence over what Americans believe, and maybe more importantly, how Americans behave. The book titled The Human Animal was authored by television host Phil Donahue. Will you please give a good feedback welcome to Mr. Phil Donahue? And may I say, Phil, thank you for coming. I read your book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I found it chock full of enormous research and just incredible kinds of things. And obviously from reading the book, you truly believe that man is, I think, what you call the super deluxe model of animal that has descended down through the evolutionary process, right?
That's true. I think man is a part of what I believe to be a divinely inspired outline or architecture of creation. I don't think we are a separate decision by God. I think my appreciation for God and my wonder about God is enhanced by the limited, and I must say to you, I cannot present myself as a scientist, the limited understanding and appreciation I have for evolution.
So you, let's get right here at the top. You don't, you're not an agnostic.
No.
No.
Oh, no.
You believe you see God in the evolutionary process.
I do.
Yeah.
In fact, I think he breathes more fully and in a more meaningful way for me.
As a matter of fact, I think you said somewhere God is complemented.
I think Charles Darwin's theory flatters God.
Yeah. Well, it might surprise you, or maybe on the other hand it doesn't surprise you, that there's still a lot of unbelievers out there.
It doesn't surprise me.
And among those unbelievers, there are a few scientists. I want to introduce Dr. Duane Gish. He is, I guess, an authority on this subject of creation science and evolution. He is the author of several books, including one called The Challenge of the Fossil Record. Will you please welcome Dr. Duane Fish? Did I say Gish or Fish?
Well, I usually refer to the theory of evolution as the fish to Gish theory, so we understand what we're talking about.
Yeah. So the idea that man came from fish to ape to Gish, you don't follow that. You don't buy that.
As a scientist, I find that notion scientifically untenable. The historical record, the fossil record, is absolutely contradictory to that notion. It's remarkably in accord with the concept of creation, as we find each basic type of animal or plant appears in the fossil record suddenly fully formed without the transitional forms that are required by evolution.
Maybe I should break in here, and for lay people like myself, maybe we ought to give just some brief definition of these two positions. Basically, Phil, define for us, basically, evolution.
All right, I should say that you could find someone with a lot more academic credentials, insight, and basic talent than I have to do this. I will tell you from my limited exposure to the scholarship that's out there now what I believe and what as imperfectly as it might be expressed, what is believed by the majority of the scientific community, that all life evolves according to the environment in which it finds itself trying to thrive, and that throughout the millennia, throughout the millions and years of evolution, mutations take place and certain species branch off to form their own biological expression of life. And they, in fact, either become extinct or move on to the kind of life forms that we see today: reptiles, birds, mammals, entomology, insects. And somewhere along the way happened the single most magnificent natural selection of all, the human animal. Our brains are the Hall of Fame natural selection. There is nothing else in all of creation, as far as we know, that is quite the same, quite as majestic, quite as awesome as is the human brain. Our ability to imagine, to foresee, to see ahead. I think that itself reflects the presence of the divinity and the evolutionary
Okay, let me get back to Dwayne, and how do you describe the creationists?
Well, the creation scientist says, based upon the scientific laws and processes which now govern the universe, that it's absolutely physically impossible that the universe could have created itself, that life could have arisen spontaneously on this planet.
I didn't say that, Doctor. I didn't say that. Please, I'm going to have enough trouble in this audience. Please don't argue against something I didn't say.
Well, I'm talking about the theory of evolution.
I don't think life created itself.
Okay, tell me what you as a creationist believe happened.
Yes.
Not right now covering what Phil has said.
You see, we have to state what evolutionists
In other
believe.
words, how did man get here, in your opinion? How did life begin?
Man was
Man's
created
life, I mean.
as man.
As a whole man.
That's correct. And life was created. It did not evolve through some combination of physical and chemical processes which are still operating today, as evolutionists maintain. That's physically impossible. It could not have happened even if the Earth were billions of times longer than 5 billion years. And the evidence indicates...
But Dwayne, you have probably the preponderance of scientists across the world that disagree with you, that believe, as Phil believes, that this did happen in that way.
That's correct.
And isn't the majority, shouldn't the majority be ruled correct?
Absolutely not, because the majority has been shown repeatedly to be wrong in science. And we've got to remember, and this is very, very important, Bob, as Theodosius Dobzhansky, one of the world's leading evolutionists, said, the philosophy that dominates our scientific establishment, the biological establishment, is that as a materialist, mechanistic philosophy, and that guides their thinking. You see, to a scientist, now, Phil, in his book, quotes repeatedly Stephen Jay Gould of Harvard University.
Yes.
That's his leading authority. Stephen Jay Gould is an atheist. He has no choice. He must believe in evolution. And therefore, he proposes evolutionary theory.
Let me ask Phil what your response is, because this is what so many who follow the creation science teaching say, Phil. They say, well, evolution is really sort of the result of agnostic atheists who didn't want to believe in God, and so they've sort of invented this Grimm's fairy tale.
Right.
Well, you've got a lot of that in your book. That
I think creationists are saying, if I were God, that's not how I do it. I think there's pride in creationists, in creationism. Creationists are saying, we're so special. We're so above all the other life forms. We're so great, we're the king of the hills here. That God made a special intervention to create us. All those other lower lives, all these other kind of stupid life forms out there, we're the best. The irony is that our value and our ability to know God and to work and to act in His name, in my view, is enhanced by the research that's out there and that enables us to appreciate how we are a part of the rest of God's plan for life.
From the book, Phil, you somehow feel, correct me if I'm wrong, but somehow I get the idea that you feel that if we all accept the evolutionist theory of creation, that it is going to have some enormous effect on our behavior. It'll make a great difference in our behavior.
I think to accept our place in what I believe, I do not insist everyone agree with me, in what is for me a personal conviction that this is divinely inspired.
Yeah.
I don't think this is an accident.
Yeah.
I am impressed with the universe. Wow, all these bodies flying around, the orbits, the order of the universe. What a magnificent, to see God in a grain of sand. I think enables us all, encourages us all to explore further what it is we already know, and we should turn our children on to this.
Would you say? Go ahead,
Bob,
Dwayne.
I have two comments here. Phil has stated his belief this is a marvelous universe, a tremendously complex universe. What he doesn't understand about the theory of evolution said that this has happened naturally, that we are here as a result of genetic mistakes. As Lauren Isley has said, man is here as a result of millions of DNA accidents. That's what evolution is. It's not a divinely guided process. It is a process based on mutations, which are genetic accidents, almost all of which, and I believe all are bad, but certainly most of which are bad, creating all kinds of genetic diseases. And Phil believes that somehow God used such a process to create man, when he could have created man instantaneously if he wanted to. Why would he use such a wasteful, inefficient method in his creation?
But do you see anything wasteful or inefficient about it?
That is contrary to the attributes
Phil?
of God.
Yeah, you see what's happening here? Dr. Gish, and I love you, and I'll tell you this, you better be there when I get to heaven. I think what you're saying, you are making my point. You are saying if I were God, I wouldn't do it this way. You're saying I, Dr. Gish, have a more efficient way to do this. Why did God waste so much time? How come he took all those millions of years? Why didn't he just go Zappo and there we were?
Why would he use millions and millions of genetic accidents, genetic mistakes, which are harmful, which have led to this so-called struggle for existence, and all of that sort of thing, and all of this to create.
Okay,
it seems to me inconsistent.
I want to
with
get
the
this audience.
attributes of
This
God.
audience, they're rabid out here. They're waiting to go.
Good.
Yes.
Mr. Donahue, before we get off onto this, I like to keep things in order too. I needed to know, first of all, did you use the Bible as one of your sources of research? And how do you feel about the Bible as God's holy word?
I think the Bible is a very important book. I think it's a very valuable reflection of the histories of civilizations. And I respect very much the millions of people who see the Bible as God's Word. I happen to believe that the Bible, like our newspaper, is the attempt on the part of finite men to record what they believe to be God's will. And I
You don't believe then, Phil, that the Word was divinely inspired to man?
I don't happen to believe that this book is absolutely, without qualification, everything that God intends for us. Not because I think God would purposely dupe us, but because I understand the finite nature of the human animal, and that however high the purpose in sharing with me God's will, when we send it through a human being, we are inevitably going to set ourselves up for certain misunderstandings and errors. I ask you to respect my interest in continuing the pursuit, in asking questions, in wondering about the universe, without being considered somehow alienated from God. And I promise you, I will never get in your way, in your interest in believing that it is the divine inspired Word of God.
Well, I would certainly support and encourage you to research. But onto your point that creationists are too proud, I feel that they are really humble in that they are willing to look at what Jesus said. He said in his parable of Abraham and Lazarus that if people won't believe what Moses told them, he said they have Moses. If people won't believe what Moses told them, they wouldn't believe it if someone came back from the dead and told them things of God.
Right.
Now in Genesis, Moses said 10 times on one page and 3 or 4 times in one verse, I counted it once, that living things were created according to their kinds, with seed in them, each according to their kinds, and that you won't expect any transitional forms. And when Mr. Gish produces that evidence from evolutionist literature, I think it's pretty convincing.
Yeah, you want to respond to that, Phil, or you want?
No, I accept his.
Okay, yeah.
If it's true, the evolutionary point that we are the product of 10 million years of evolution, okay?
More than that.
A lot more than that.
Whatever it may be. Where are the transitional forms in the fossil record then? There should be tens of millions of evidences, in the fossil or the rock record. Where is it?
Well, there are gaps in the fossil record. There's no doubt about that.
Yes, there are gaps, and these gaps are enormous. Let me point out one gap.
What do the gaps
Phil.
prove?
Let me tell you, we have a great variety of complex invertebrates, sea urchins, sea cucumbers, sponges, and things like that.
Right.
And we have fishes.
Right.
Now, the evolution says that one of these invertebrates evolved into fishes during 100 million years of time.
Right.
That would have left billions times billions times billions of intermediate forms.
Where are
Our
they?
museum should be just loaded with these intermediate forms, but we've never found one. Every major kind of fish we know anything about has had its origins firmly based in nothing. All of a sudden, we have fishes.
Yeah.
Now, if evolution is true, why, in all that 100 million years of evolution, do we have a trace of an intermediate form in the fossil record showing what invertebrate evolved into fishes and how that evolution took place? There's a huge gap, a mammoth gap, and it's characteristic of the fossil record.
Dwayne, is that primarily the subject of your book?
That's primarily the subject
the gap
of my
of
book,
the fossil
Evolution,
record,
the
yeah.
Challenge of the Fossil
Yes, ma'am.
Record.
I was going to address the same issue. It sort of ties into the same thing. But first of all, Phil, welcome to South Florida.
Thank you.
I religiously watch your show.
I'm pleased to know that.
And in spite of what you say about us Bible believers, sometimes we still love you.
I appreciate you
Okay,
saying so. I
wanted
hope
you
I
to
have
know.
not indicated that I don't love you.
Okay, well, we do love you. Just wanted to ask, why isn't there some evidence of a transition between species that's going on? Why don't we even see that? Of course, not just in the fossil record. Why doesn't that happen today, that species can either interrelate with one another or one species even change and evolve into another one even today?
Yeah, okay. Phil?
Well, I think what we have is there's no doubt about it, there are gaps in the record. But we certainly have fossil finds which indicate primitive man, prehistoric man. Lucy is the evidence of the beginning of the human condition several thousand years ago. And the fact that there are gaps in the fossil record does not make the creationist point.
Phil,
fact is-
Lucy's sort of she's one of the cast of characters in your book. But Dwayne, you have a totally different sort of idea about Sister Lucy than...
Yes.
Was she
and
human?
No, absolutely not.
She was not human.
No, she was not. And her fellow creatures. A number
Was
of
she an
those
ape or
been
what was
found.
she?
She was an ape. Now, the consensus, I agree with Phil, the consensus among evolutionists was that Lucy, although she was ape from the neck up, she walked erect in the human manner. But there are a number of scientists who are not creationists, they're evolutionists. Charles Oxnard, University of Southern California, Lord Zuckerman, a very famous British anatomist who studied these fossils for many, many years using the most sophisticated methods of analysis, said that those creatures did not walk upright, they are not intermediate between ape and man, and they certainly are not ancestral to man.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Donahue, you said earlier that, in your opinion, our brain was the Hall of Fame of natural selection.
I think so.
I'm a science teacher and now a private Christian school, and it occurs to us that as we're listening to the talk between you two and we're able to discuss our differences, that the students in our public schools cannot really evaluate. Now, I'd just like to make a statement that our brain is the most complex organism known anywhere in the universe.
Right.
And your belief is that it's the Hall of Fame of natural selection, right?
Yeah.
We presume
Well, we're
Dr.
both saying the
Gish,
same thing, aren't
if
we?
I could finish. Dr. Gish would say it's a special created organism, not coming from something subhuman. And why can't our public school students have a chance to listen to such a discussion like this? It's a valid issue. We have a fact, and we have different interpretations, and we're discussing it here.
Right. Do
Why
you
not in
keep-
public schools?
Is evolution exposed to your students?
In our school, yes, it is. As a matter of fact, we do a dual treatment of both creation and evolution. Some of the students are here, as a matter of fact. And at the end of the discussion, they're encouraged to write their own thoughts, their own opinions, evaluate the evidence. And I really can't do that. I've taught in other schools. The main reason why I'm teaching in a private Christian school is the
Yeah.
opportunity to do that.
Well-
I have more freedom to teach both views in this school than I would in the school that I was educated in
Right.
back in...
Okay, let's get Phil's response
Well,
to that.
I admire very much what you're doing. I think a lot of us are out here complaining, and you're out there doing. I appreciate it very much. It's clear you care about our children. I ask you to believe that so do I. I am asking you, I am saying, please don't deny our children the majesty of the literature, the scholarship, and the follow-on work of Charles Darwin, a God-fearing Christian man who lived in England in the middle.
I'm sorry, Phil.
But Phil,
Darwin ended up,
Phil, let me
for
ask:
all purposes, an atheist.
aren't the public schools, Phil, according to this teacher's experience and statement, are the public schools sort of denying the other side
No, I
of
think
this
you've
point?
been very, I think you've been very effective. No other country on earth, certainly no other Western developed country, has as difficult a time teaching this essential view of science as does the American education system. And I think in so doing, we are depriving our children of some of the most magnificent evidence available for the existence of God. And that's what
Let's
bothers me.
let's see what some
would
of the
you agree that both viewpoints should be taught? That my scientific evidence for creation, as long as what you believe to be the scientific evidence for evolution, that this should be taught in our tax-supported public schools and our pluralistic democratic society, that both viewpoints should be presented objectively and
Okay, you made
unbiased
your point,
fashion
Dwayne. Let him answer it.
with no Bible.
No, I do. I think it's a religion, and I think that the minute that this kind of religion is offered in a public school curriculum, then the Ayatollah followers can come
Phil,
along and decide they have a new interpretation of
Let me make, first of all, I want to quote from your book.
Okay.
The final statement you make in your book. Cheers to us, cheers to our future, to greater tolerance and freer inquiry, to more accommodation and fewer showdown. Now, you do not want to grant that to the creation scientists. You do not want to give us the academic freedom and religious freedom to go in our tax-supported public schools
but Dr.
and
Gish,
teach scientific evidence. You
Yeah.
want to deny us that,
Yeah.
but you believe the religion of Stephen Jay Gould, he's a Marxist atheist, and his religion and all of those, that should be taught in our public schools.
Dr.
You are
Gish.
not against the teaching of religion. The thing is, you want your religion to be taught in the
do.
schools.
All right.
And I say we should
Okay, give Phil a chance to respond. I just got the idea you're outnumbered right now, Phil. I guess you knew that. Go ahead.
Yes, I did. Dr. Gish, I don't know whether you're presuming to know what Stephen Jay Gould is in his heart is necessarily tolerant. Not called him now an atheist. I'm almost finished. You've also called Charles Darwin an atheist.
He ended up an atheist.
This is first of all, in good old free America, what a person is none of your business. How I worship.
I agree.
It's my business.
And my religious is none of your business either. When it comes to science,
but I've not
and
called you names. I have not suggested that you're an atheist. I've not suggested that somehow you're separated from God.
But
I haven't set myself up
Phil,
on this
you
lofty
said you didn't want
religious
my
platform.
religion taught in the schools. I don't want my religion taught in the schools either. I don't want teachers to go in the classrooms and teach the book of Genesis or to teach the Bible. I don't want that. First of all, I wouldn't agree with the way they teach it, mostly.
All right. Okay.
And furthermore, I do not want the philosophy and religion of these evolutionists.
Wait a minute, Dwayne. You said you don't want Genesis account taught in the school. Is that what you said?
That's right.
Okay.
I want the scientific evidence that supports creation to be presented in a fair and unbiased manner, along with the evidence for evolution.
Okay.
That's all we're asking.
I want to pick up on that because I think that's an
And
important area
I
for
want
us
to
to
make
cover.
sure now. Let me
Wait a minute. We're going to take
well,
a
I wanna
short
say
break.
something
We're going
about-
to take a short break, and I
Gotta show
promise
the
you I'll give you the first chance. Okay. I promise you I'll give you the first chance. We'll be right back in just a moment. Okay, we're back, and I promised Dwayne that I would let him pick up the minute we came back. I cut you
I'll
off.
make clear my views about Stephen Jay Gould. I tremendously respect.
Oh wait, that wasn't what you were talking about. Your idea about whether Genesis should be used in the schools
Well, yes,
or not.
and he said perhaps that I had sort of cast aspersions on Stephen Jay Gould. Let me clear that up first. I highly respect Stephen Jay Gould. He has a brilliant mind.
Don't call him an atheist, then, Dr. Gish.
He is.
Don't do that.
Well, he stated
That's
that.
none of your business.
Well,
no, he hasn't stated that. That's none
yes.
of your business.
Now, wait a minute.
It's a kind of McCarthyism, Dr.
Mr.
Gish.
Donahue,
When you start,
you brought up
start calling people.
You brought up the matter of religion. I did not bring it up, and I didn't intend to. But when you say that we're trying to teach our religion in the public schools, I must then refer to the religion of the evolutionists.
Okay.
And Stephen Jay Gould, in one of his technical publications, said that his particular view on evolution perhaps was influenced by the fact that he had been raised as a Marxist on his daddy's knee. He put that in the scientific literature, and it's public, you see. So I'm not bringing up anything that's not public.
Okay, let's get the audience
but I
back in
respect
here.
Stephen Jay Gould and
I
his
think
ability
what
as a
bothers
scientist.
me the most is the fact that you're talking about the gaps. I mean, if we've been in existence, or life has been in existence for millions of years,
Yeah.
is it not true that we've only had several hundred years to investigate? I mean, is it not true that we're still discovering?
Yes, it is.
I think
true.
you admit that, don't you, Phil?
Oh, I think there's this much to know, and we know this much.
So how is it possible that we're able to determine from the gaps, or the lack of gaps, where we've come from?
What do you mean in
is it-
spite of the gaps? Yeah, go ahead, Phil.
What is it that you want to believe? What makes you feel good? How do you think this all happened here? How did we get to be here, this magnificent life form, this species known as Homo sapiens sapien? What a wonderful thing we are. I mean, think about us. We are something.
Correct.
Now, how did we get here?
Exactly the way that we're discovering it by the show and by other ways of learning. That's the only way that we can discover. I mean, we all have points of view, and we have to take all the information that we gather and disseminate that and
Right.
figure out.
Yeah, do you follow Dr. Gish's creationism?
No,
Okay, we'll answer. Can you answer Phil's question? How did we get here?
it's the best way is exactly what we're talking about.
He's in favor of
Yes,
continual
I wanted to make a
examination.
point
Go ahead.
about man, and Phil makes the point about man in his book. Man, in his human brain, has somewhere between about 100 billion cells, something like that, with somewhere between 100 trillion and 1 quadrillion connections in the human brain.
Right.
Now, Phil believes that happens, that started with hydrogen gas, and by natural processes, including all the genetic mistakes, somehow the human brain has been generated naturally by that way. I think it takes a tremendous faith to believe that. I just can't believe anything so incredible.
Phil, do you
contrary to
deny
science.
the ingredient of faith in believing or accepting evolution? You don't call evolution fact.
I don't call-
signed, sealed, delivered, finished.
I do not believe that the scholarship available now regarding the origin of life and the evolution of species is complete by any means. I'll just say it one more time. There's this much to know, and we only know this much so far. But in here is information that flatters God that we should share with our children. Don't deprive them of this scholarship. It'll make them better Christians. It'll make them more impressed with God.
And-
It'll help them wonder, and they'll bring their own power that they have as a result of this master plan
so
of
you
God to the business of finding out more.
I
You
would
do
like to-
agree, Phil, that they should hear both sides in? Yeah.
No, he does not.
Well, wait, let
Absolutely
him
not.
answer, Dwayne. Let him answer for himself.
He said so.
I do not believe that creationism should be taught in public schools. No, the answer that
Okay,
I
the
do
issue
not.
here, I have 2 comments if I may, is not the issue of what to teach in school is not an issue of religion, it's an issue of freedom. What Dr. Gish is saying is that he should have as much opportunity as the evolutionists to present the creation theory from a scientific viewpoint. Now, whatever you want to call the creator, whether you want to call him Jehovah or the great robot in the sky or whatever you want to call him, is irrelevant. The point is we need to present to the youngsters both sides and let them make the decision themselves.
All right.
The other point.
Let
I'd
me
like
ask
to-
you this question.
I agree 100%.
Good. May I ask you this question? There are religions, as you must know, that think blood transfusions are against God's law. You know about that. If I believe that a blood transfusion is against God's law, can I teach that in a public school?
You can teach that there are people who believe that and why they believe that. You don't have to force anyone to believe that.
Precisely. I say any theory that can be supported by scientific evidence ought to be presented. I don't believe in a flat earth, and there's no flat earthers among the creationists that I know of, and that's ridiculous.
Let
to
this
link
little
us
lady,
to
I
people
promised
like
her
that.
one more question.
Just one more comment. I get this feeling, okay, about the evolutionists, which I think might help to be examined, and is this. If tomorrow every single scientist in America, some piece of evidence were gathered that proved, without a shadow of a doubt, that creation was the correct theory, the creation theory, I think that the evolutionists, I think they're afraid of something to believe in creation would change, Phil, would it not? Your image of God. You've got an image of God. You've said you believe in God. But if creation were true, all of a sudden God isn't who you thought he was, is
Well,
he?
Let Phil respond to that.
God,
Yeah.
how is, stay with her for a second, man.
Okay, yeah.
How is God different?
Phil
Well,
runs the show so much.
How do you
yeah.
believe your view of God is different from my view of God?
I think that if someone told you, Phil, that creation were really true, then it would make you all of a sudden think, my gosh, God took special time out for me, then you would be...
I think that now. I think God took special time out to give me an opportunity to exist in this magnificent, visible creation that's available to me now.
You said that you naturally evolved. God didn't take a special time out to say, and God created Phil. God thought of Phil. No, God took an ape and watched this ape evolve into a Phil eventually.
Let me ask you this. Stand up a second. Did God take time out to create the chimpanzee? The chimp.
You want me to put it on the panel, Phil?
So in other words, God individually created all life forms, and they haven't changed, and they look today as they always looked. Is that what you're saying?
He created each after its own kind. Okay, not all people are alike. They're different colors,
so
different
he created
shapes,
these different
sizes.
species at different times. Is that your position?
This is true.
I see.
Okay.
And is the last species he created the human species? So we're the last act of creation then. Is that your feeling?
This is true, yes.
We should have put her on the panel, I think, Phil. Yeah, Dr.
Well, I think
Is that your feeling,
we could
Doctor?
arrange a buggy, a Model T Ford, a Model A Ford, a V8 Ford, and a modern Ford in a series. No question they make up a series. But we know, on the other hand, that a buggy was specially created, and so were the automobiles. One did not evolve into the other. They appeared in a true time sequence over time, that they're distinct and separate, and there are no transition forms. And that's what we see among the forms in the fossil record.
Okay.
Phil, I have a question for you. You don't want the creation view presented in schools because it's religious, because it contains a God that created that. Yet you yourself are saying that in the evolutionary process, God is evident, and yours isn't religion, yet yours contains a God also.
Well, that's my opinion. I do not insist that science teachers share my view.
Now you see,
that's my opinion. I happen to think that God must be something.
You see,
because I think this is something. But this is not a view that I believe should be force-fed to any class in a public school.
Yeah, okay.
I have one more question. Where did the original life come from then? Do you believe in the Big Bang Theory or some other theory where something that was non-life suddenly became life? Where do you think that first piece of life came from?
I think, this is my opinion, that it came from God. I think God set off a magnificent chain of events.
starting with the Big Bang.
Call it a Big Bang, call it whatever you want.
An explosion.
And down through the millions of years, with protein and the primordial soup and lightning and energy and the creation of the universe and the planets and the orbs and the satellites, there evolved on one of the planets, a very small planet indeed called Earth, the conditions that allowed for the maturation, the development of millions of different kind of species, most of which are already extinct. Most are extinct. And down along this tremendous, awesome drama, at some time came a branching off of a species that became us, Homo sapiens sapien. And I think that expresses more majestically, more profoundly, the power of God than any notion that he reached out of the sky at some place and went zap and made it.
Now, Phil, let me make a point here. Phil, you realize your viewpoint, according to your own mandate, cannot be taught in the public schools. Because you say, I believe in creation, I believe in a creator, that's religion. Your viewpoint cannot be taught because you said you believe evolution is guided by God, the creator. That cannot be tolerated. Now, wait a minute.
Yeah.
The only viewpoint that can be tolerated in the public schools then is a totally non-theistic or atheistic mechanistic theory of evolution, according to your own dictate.
No,
your view can't be taught in the schools. It requires God.
No, the view I want taught in a public school to my children,
Yeah, all right.
should they be young enough to go to public school,
It's pure evolution.
is science. And when they come home and say, Daddy, how did that first I would share with them their father's personal belief that this was
That
divinely
is
inspired.
not
But I do
science.
not expect a teacher in a public school system to impose that view on all members of the class. I think that's the right of the parent,
Oh, now
not
wait a
the
minute.
classroom
Yes,
teacher.
you are expecting them to impose this mechanistic, materialistic theory of evolution on everybody.
Mechanistic,
every
materialistic.
student. You are not permitting that student to hear the scientific evidence for creation. And there's a tremendous
Okay.
Let me get this little
scientific
lady in here.
case for
Yeah.
creation, but you don't
Mr.
want that
Donahue?
talk.
Yeah.
You just got asked a question about how life came into being.
Right.
Well, you really never answered that question. You said, okay, well, it came through the Big Bang or whatever. But how do you really think that it came into being? If you say you believe in God, then what?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Did you hear him?
God,
Did you hear him? Okay.
God created me. God created me with limits. I tell you, and I used to be real discouraged that I couldn't get it for, you know, I was like you. I wanted to know. Now I'm comfortable with the wonder of it. I enjoy the questions. I enjoy your question. I enjoy your curiosity about it, and I respect your view.
Curiosity.
Huh?
I know how life
Tell
came
me
into
how.
being. Through God. He just said people, and they're there. I mean, the Lord.
You mean instantaneously, boom, there they were?
Instantaneously. I mean, God has all power. Do you believe God that has all power? I
Yeah.
mean, do you believe He's in control of the world? Well, then how come He can't create a man?
I didn't say he couldn't create a man. I'm saying, I didn't say that. I'm saying I think he did create a man. You just don't agree with the way science is suggesting that he created it, if you want to put a religious ribbon on it.
Okay.
Mr. Gish, I'd like to ask you a question on this. We have white, we have black, we have Japs, we have Chinese, we have all different. According to religion, God created Adam and Eve. Well, where did everybody else come from?
Yeah, good question. Where did Cain
Where
and
do you
Abel?
think? Genetic. Where do you think?
I believe in God, I believe in Jesus, I believe that God created me, and I kind of bend a little bit towards the evolution.
Okay.
Oh, praise the Lord.
You got an ally, Phil. You got one
Now,
ally.
don't go deciding that somehow he's farther away from Jesus than you are.
Okay.
Now let's
Now, where did
relax
where
and
did
let's
Adam
let
and
this
Eve-
wonder express
where did
itself.
Adam and Eve
What?
create the colored, the Chinese?
In other words, you want to know where did Cain and Abel get their wives?
Well, he also wants to know why
I-
there are so many different, how much
Ethnic groups.
ethnicity
Where did they all
within the-
ethnicity come from?
Yes. First of all, we would expect that in each created kind, God would have created a tremendous genetic potential or variability so that each created kind could adapt to various environments and conditions.
Really?
Now, as far as the humans are concerned, there's no problem at all. When a woman is born, she has in her ovaries 500,000 viable eggs. She could potentially
My
produce 500,000 different children.
Excuse me, but
One
that
of-
is not true.
Yes, it is.
Dr. Gish, I beg you to believe that the woman is not born with 500,000 eggs. It is more like 600 eggs.
Well,
let
me tell you where I got my figure.
overstate. Please, these women are tired enough having all these babies. They don't want to think.
Let me tell you where I got my figure. From a book by Lord Zuckerman called Beyond the Ivory Tower. He did research on the problem, and he started out with very different ideas. And that's
Okay,
why-
Dwayne, 500 or
What I'm trying to
600,000,
say-
what's the point?
What's
What's
the
the point?
point is this, that a woman and a man, genetically, could produce almost an infinite number of children without having two identical children. There's no problem, you see, if they're racially mixed, to derive from even one couple.
Yeah, but
One couple, if they're properly racially mixed, could produce one black child, one white child, and 14 children of various shades of color if they have the right genetic mix. So there's no problem genetically.
There's no problem. What color were Adam and Eve?
I suppose they were probably a pretty nice brown color. They weren't our pale white color.
Well, then where did I come from? You don't find, I mean, here's the Irish guy.
Where did the Chihuahua come from and the Great Dane? They came from the same wild mongrel dog, Phil. The genetic potential was there in that wild population.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Donahue, you mentioned Homo sapiens, which is genus and species of modern man. Of all the so-called fossil man, two of them are now considered Homo sapiens. That is, the so-called Neanderthal is now Homo sapiens neanderthalensis,
Yes.
and there's one other Cro-Magnon. The remainder consists of a few which evolutionists now admit are apes, and in some cases absolute frauds. I'd like to have your opinion on fossil man.
I respect the... you sound much more informed about these issues than I am. I respect science's... First of all, I'm impressed with science's ability to determine the age of the fossils that are discovered. I think I accept like other scientists, like most scientists, I am discouraged by the fact that we don't have a straighter line with more information. But I think that the contribution of the two discoveries that you found enhance the theory of evolution and make it more likely that our children might be turned on to fill in some of the gaps that are present right now in the record. I want your children to be turned on to this, because I think this praises the Lord. This is the attempt to find out more about the universe that the Lord created.
Phil, why are you so dogmatically opposed to the scientific evidence for both viewpoints being presented in our public schools? We have a democratic society. Supposedly we guarantee academic freedom, religious freedom. My tax money and your tax money supports those public schools. Why should your particular view be taught dogmatically in those schools? Why should our young people be indoctrinated in that sort of a theory? Why can't they hear both sides?
Because I think that your creationism is a religious belief.
Your
evolution
view is religion too,
belief.
because you say
Dwayne,
God was
we're going to run
involved.
out of time, and there's another important area that I would like to, in reference to Phil's book, The Human Animal. And really the book...
By the way, may I say, I've read it and I found it to be a tremendously interesting book. I don't agree, obviously, with everything in it, but I would recommend the book.
But the book, as far as I see it, and I read it all the way through, Phil, and I congratulate you. It's an enormous piece of work. It's really more about human behavior than about evolution. Yeah. And in the opening, I asked a question about how believing or not believing in evolution, what effect you feel that has, minus or plus, on human behavior.
I think to know more about how we got here helps us understand why we're behaving as we are. Why are half the nations of the world at war? Why is violence almost always a male activity? Why are we getting along so badly? What is paranoia? What is racism? Why are our children becoming so alienated from us? What's the best way to raise a child to appreciate the world around him, to be able to manage his anger, to know how to laugh, to know how to cry, to know how to use all of the gifts that the human animal is entitled to have, because in my view, that's the way God planned it. Why are we smashing our intelligence, our vision, our imagination? Let's allow our children to wade right through this big door that was opened for us by Charles Darwin in 1859. Let them see what's behind them. Trust me, they will not become atheists. If anything, they'll become more impressed with the majesty of the Lord.
Can I comment on that, please?
Yeah, Dwayne, but let me read one thing for Phil. It's from, what do you have to help me? Dobzhansky. Is that right? I know he is, but pronounce it.
Theodosius.
Yeah, one of the great evolutionists. He says in a book published in 1959, man is a zoological species. But this species has evolved properties so unique and unprecedented on the animal level that in man the biological evolution has transcended itself. Over and over again, some biologists have made themselves ridiculous by urging solutions of human, social, and political problems based on the assumption that man is nothing but an animal. How dangerous may be such false keys to human riddles is shown by the fruits of one of these errors, race theory.
Right.
Do you want to respond to that, Phil?
I am not suggesting that everything is going to be found in an exploration of the literature available to us regarding evolution, origin of species, and so on. I am suggesting that we are not going to begin to solve the agonies that beset us all over the world today if we don't have a better appreciation of who we are. Along that way will come lots of agonies, lots of doubts, some arguments, but I believe with Tennyson that there's more faith in an honest doubt than in half the creeds. Let's not surrender to somebody charismatic or otherwise, who claims to know all the answers. Let's let this door open and trust our children to use their own brains so that they can enhance their own position on earth
I
and
agree
love
with that.
God even
Let them
more.
hear both sides.
Do you
Bob?
how do you feel the survival of the fittest, which is at the heart and core
Yes, it is.
of evolutionary teaching? How does that fit with what you were saying in the book?
I think
that's a problem for some people.
I think Darwin's thesis is more properly expressed not in the survival of the fittest, but in the survival of the fitting. One of the most powerful human behavior, or the most powerful behavior to enhance the survival of a species, is not aggression, it's cooperation. We get out of each other's way 1 billion times every day. We say, excuse me. We do have some among us who reach out, lash out, often in the name of the Lord. What a terrible, terrible sacrilege that is. In the name of the Prince of Peace, we've caused more havoc than for any other single idea. But let's remember this. Most of us get through the day getting out of each other's way, respecting each other.
I agree with what you're saying, Mr. Donahue, but you were saying let's let the kids have the opportunity to listen to the facts. Why aren't they allowed to have both sides not taught as a religion? Creation is not a religion. I don't know anybody that worships creation. I really don't. They worship God or whatever.
What bothers you about evolution, may I ask?
What bothers you about creation,
Evolution
Phil? I mean, there are two viewpoints, creator or no creator. Both are equally religious.
Well, let me ask you, when did man first find himself on the planet Earth? And under what circumstance?
The viewpoints of creationists differ on that point. Some say it happened 1 million years ago. Others say it happened, say, 10,000 years ago,
What do you
plus or
think?
minus. I strongly lean towards the younger point of view.
10,000
But that's
years.
immaterial. I don't care when he appeared. Phil, I'll give you 5 billion years for the age of the Earth. I'll give you 20 billion years for the age of the universe. It's still not nearly long
Dwayne,
enough.
you know
for
what we
chance
did?
to
We
produce-
took this little lady was we didn't get back to her. She hadn't finished. Yeah.
Thank you. One of the hallmarks of your show, Mr. Donahue, is to offer both sides of the position whenever available and for the search for truth, whatever that truth may be in that situation. I think that our children deserve the chance to hear both sides, that both sides are available for them. You're not forcing anyone to believe something that they don't want to believe.
Yes, ma'am. May I please just make this point? The creationists have been enormously successful by calling people atheists and suggesting they're not close to God.
It's on the basis of the scientific evidence, Phil. When I get on a college or university campus in a debate or in a lecture, I present strictly scientific evidence. I never mention anybody's religion. You brought up my religion.
Dr. Gish, I think you'll agree with what I'm about to say. The vast majority of high school textbooks regarding biology today give the back of the hand to evolution. Often evolution is not mentioned
But
at
they
all.
give nothing to
Please let me
creation.
just make
Absolutely
my
nothing.
point. A biology textbook without evolution is like a physics textbook without Einstein. Not to expose your child to the vision and the wisdom of one of the most important contributions in the history of science on the origin of species is to deny your children a real look into the face and the glory of God.
But
that's my opinion.
I don't think this crowd is saying deny the one.
But they are.
They're saying make available both.
No, that's not
Take
true.
a look at the textbooks.
No, sir.
Darwin is ignored, and you have got publishers so intimidated that they don't want to put a textbook out that says Darwin in it. They're afraid you'll boycott them, and you have been enormously successful.
Listen, Phil, let me tell you what we want. We do not want evolution taken out of those textbooks. We want both sides presented fairly in an unbiased fashion. That's all we're asking. To take evolution out, to take origins out, would not be right. It would not be fair, and we don't want that. We want both sides taught in these textbooks.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Phil, but I can't separate my religion from what I am, and I don't want my children to have to either. And I think that,
But I'm not asking you to.
But, the Bible is the greatest book, and yet you're throwing that out altogether,
No, I'm not. I'm not
pretty
throwing
much.
it out.
And you're saying that we need to expose our children to Darwin's writings, but you don't want to expose them to the Bible, which is the Word of God.
Yeah. Well, what should we do with Jewish children who want to maybe be exposed to the Word in the Torah?
Right.
Should we do that?
Yes.
All right. Excuse me.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Hey,
Would you
hey.
please let me try this?
Yeah.
So the Torah is okay with you, is that right?
Okay,
Should we
let me-
teach the Torah in school too? Yes. All right, so now we've got the
creation
Bible and the
theory.
Torah. How about Muslim teachings? The Islamic faith. Should the Islamic faith? Where do we stop? Who gets the most time of all? Please see. I just have one point to make. Protecting the public schools.
We don't want religion in the public schools, Phil. We're not asking for that. We don't want the book of Genesis. We don't want Islam. We don't want anything taught in those schools.
Well, that's not what you
Navajo Indians, we want the scientific evidence for creation presented.
All right.
And
I'm asking you to believe. I'd like you to believe and I'm off. Just let me. I believe that keeping religion, your religion, out of public schools enhances the freedom of expression of your religion.
But Phil, you want
that's
secular humanism. You want secular humanism in those schools, and
Phil,
humanism is a non-theistic
Let me get this
religion.
little lady.
Yes,
I'd
ma'am.
just like to say that I was saved through Darwin's theory of evolution. I came to a belief in God, but I figured I did not need Jesus Christ. I could certainly go to God by myself, and I was not going to swallow anything. I got Darwin's theory of evolution, and I read it. And I was so awed by the magnificent God who had created nature, which was beyond...
You have to hurry, I'm running out of time.
I could imagine. At that point, I said, I can no longer identify with this God who is so vast and above me. At that point, I researched Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And I saw that he lived on a level which was far superior to mine.
And did you reject Darwin then?
Of course not. But
Oh.
I have rejected evolution for one reason. Until they find that missing link, I'm not going to accept it.
Okay.
And I would like you to discuss about the evolution, the lack of evolution of speech.
We don't have time to open up any new
Absolutely
areas.
no evidence for
I
that
want to
point, by the
thank
way.
you, Dr. Dwayne Gish, for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you very much.
And I think we ought to give Mr. Phil Donahue a special round for coming into the lion's den, as it were.
Thank you.
Whether you agree with his position or not, he's a brave man, right? Okay. And I'll be right back in just a moment. Don't go away. I'll be right back. It is said that the Kaiser Wilhelm stood one day before a classroom filled with children, and pointing to a flower at his lapel, a ring on his finger, and a bird flying past the window, he asked the school children to which kingdom each of those belonged, and they answered for him vegetable, mineral, and animal. And I guess they got an A for the right answer. Then the Kaiser asked them the question that should be the supreme question facing all of humanity. He asked the school children, to which kingdom do you belong? And, well-educated in the system of this world, they answered animal, and they got another A for another right answer. But was it the right answer? Is it the right answer? Well, let's ask about Jesus Christ. He lived on this planet. He walked, he talked, he breathed, he ate, he drank, as we do. Can you think of Jesus Christ in only biological or animal terms, or was he something more, something different? If you believe what he said in the Bible, what he taught, what he said about himself, then you have to believe that Jesus was more than a biological creature, more than an animal. As a matter of fact, Jesus said to his disciples, to his followers, that his kingdom actually was not of this world. And in John chapter 17, we call it the priestly prayer. When he was praying for his disciples, he said of his disciples, they are not of this world. Now, what could Jesus mean, not of this world? Well, if you go to the Beatitudes, the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus said, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God. In other words, Jesus taught that there is a spiritual dimension to man that is not present in these other biological beings on planet Earth. It is that part that makes him God-like, that soul, that spirit, so that man literally belongs, though he be on this planet, to another kingdom. And Jesus taught it is an everlasting kingdom. It is the eternal kingdom. It is the kingdom of God. I guess the supreme question facing every one of us, the one that perhaps is more important to us than all else, is which kingdom do I belong to? And if you look in the Bible, God's Word, you will find that there's a spiritual dimension that can only be brought into proper perspective and relationship by a personal knowledge of Jesus Christ. If you will write us today, we will send you, if you requested a transcript of today's program, or we will send you, if you requested, a feedback fact sheet about evolution and creationism. So all you have to do is just write to feedback. The address is there on your screen, and we will get that transcript or the feedback fact sheet in the mail.